Each year, my boyfriend took covert trips to California to see Emma, and 8 months later, I peeked at his phone, so he then revealed the picture. That transpired 3 years past. I still send birthday cards to the graveyard where his dead friend's daughter visits her father. What if the person you loved most, the one you trusted with everything, was hiding a life-shattering secret right under your nose? And what if your deepest fears, born from past betrayals, led you down a path where you almost destroyed everything, only to discover a truth far more heartbreaking and beautiful than you could ever imagine? It all started so innocently. Stan, my boyfriend, mentioned this trip he takes every single year. Always the same couple of days, always to California. When I asked him why, his answer was vague, almost dismissive. He just shrugged it off, tried to change the subject, even asked if I wanted to come along, knowing full well I couldn't get the time off work. I tried to make sense of it. I knew he was a former Marine, stationed out there. So, my mind went to old buddies, maybe some kind of nostalgia trip. That made sense, right? A quiet, personal ritual. Then, a few days later, the air conditioning in our house decided to die, and Stan was cooking, so his phone was charging in the other room. And I saw it. A text notification from a name I didn't recognize, glowing on the locked screen. I'm utterly ashamed to admit this, but I knew his password. I'd figured it out a while back. It wasn't some sinister plan, I swear. He's just predictable. It was the name of his favorite gun. Now, before you jump to conclusions, before you call me out for snooping, understand this. I've been burned before. Badly. I've given my entire heart to men who then, without a second thought, tore it to shreds by cheating. The wounds were deep, and my anxieties, my fears, they started screaming at me. I couldn't help myself. I picked up the phone. And there it was. The text. It said, "Remember, girl's name, S favorite beer is Buzz Light. Get a few cases." My stomach dropped. Buzz Light? Cases of it? Why would he be bringing a girl's favorite beer on a trip he refused to tell me anything about? A vacation, as far as I knew, that was just for him. Alarm bells didn't just ring, they screamed in my head. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped his phone. I quickly closed it, my heart pounding, pretending I hadn't seen a thing. I couldn't hold it in. I went to my work friends for advice, spilling the whole thing. And all three of them, without hesitation, without a single doubt, told me the same thing. "Sarah, he's cheating on you. It's a romantic getaway. He's seeing another woman." My anxiety didn't just flare, it consumed me. I felt like I was drowning in a wave of fear and betrayal. He was the one, I thought. How could he do this to me? The pain was already searing. I went home early, convinced that I needed to have this big, dramatic confrontation. I wanted to yell, to scream, to shatter everything. But I'd read enough Reddit stories about catching cheaters. I had a plan. I was going to back him into a corner. When I got home, he was in the backyard, calmly fixing a fallen fence post. The irony of it, right? Fixing something broken while our whole world was about to splinter. I called him inside. He said he'd be there in a second. "No," I snapped, my voice stern, shaking. "Come inside. Now." I heard the distinct thud of a wooden plank hitting the ground, then the frantic thud of his footsteps as he ran inside. He must have thought I was hurt, or something terrible had happened. "What's wrong?" he asked, his face etched with concern. My carefully constructed plan crumbled the moment I saw his worried eyes. Tears instantly blurred my vision. "I know you're cheating on me," I choked out. He looked, dumbfounded. Then a small, confused chuckle escaped him, like he thought I was making some terrible joke. But when I just started openly sobbing, breaking down right there in our kitchen, his face changed. The confusion melted into a raw, genuine hurt. He tried to come over, to comfort me. I swatted his hand away. He stopped dead, his eyes wide, backing up a step. "What gave you the idea I'm cheating?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I know about Emma," I spat, the girl's name from the text. "From the text? You're going to see her next week, aren't you?" He paused, then took a deep breath. "Yeah," he said, his voice flat. "I am." My world shattered. He just admitted it. Right there. The fresh wave of pain was so intense I could barely breathe. I cried harder, my body shaking with despair. But then, he did something I didn't expect. He reached into his wallet, pulled out a small, creased photograph, and showed it to me. "That," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "that's Emma." It was a picture of Stan and another man, both in uniform, arms slung around each other's shoulders, rifles in their other hands. And my breath caught. I knew this picture. I'd seen it before. It was in a memorial post from one of Stan's friends. The other man, Tyler. He was Stan's best friend. He'd killed himself while they were in the military together. The truth slammed into me like a physical blow. The shame, the immediate, agonizing regret, was overwhelming. My body went cold. I had just accused the love of my life, a man who carried such profound grief, of the cruelest betrayal. I started apologizing, babbling, trying to take back every single word. But what he did next, it was unbelievable. He didn't yell. He didn't throw things. He just stood there, looking at me with an expression I'd never seen before. It wasn't anger, not really. It was something far more devastating, deep, profound disappointment, mixed with a pain so raw it was almost palpable. He carefully, meticulously, put Tyler's photo back in his wallet, turned around, and walked back outside to finish fixing the fence. I stood there in our kitchen, my legs shaking so badly I had to grab the counter just to stay upright. The rhythmic thump-thump of his hammer hitting the fence post echoed through the open door, each strike feeling like it was hitting me directly in the chest. I wanted to run after him, to explain, to beg for forgiveness, but my feet were glued to the floor. I was paralyzed. 20 minutes passed. The hammering stopped. I heard the quiet clinking of tools as he put them away in the shed. When he came back inside, he went straight to the sink to wash his hands, not meeting my gaze once. I watched him dry his hands on the dish towel, fold it perfectly, just like he always did, and hang it back on the hook. "Stan," I started, my voice hoarse. He held up a hand, stopping me. "I need to pack," he said quietly, his voice devoid of emotion. "My flight's tomorrow morning." He walked past me towards our bedroom. I followed him, watching him pull his old military duffel bag from the closet. He started folding clothes with the same meticulous precision he used for everything else, t-shirts rolled tight, jeans folded into perfect squares. "Please, just let me explain," I pleaded from the doorway. He paused, holding a pair of socks. His gaze was still distant. "Explain what, Sarah? That you went through my phone? That you accused me of cheating? That you brought up Emma's name like it was some kind of gotcha moment?" The way he said her name, Emma's name, made my stomach clench. There was pain in his voice. Real, gut-wrenching pain. "I didn't know," I whispered, the words barely audible. "You didn't ask," he replied, going back to his packing. "You just assumed." I watched him add a small, wrapped package to the bag. Then another. "Birthday presents," I realized. My eyes started burning again. "Tyler asked me to look after her," Stan said, not looking up. "Right before it happened. He knew he wasn't okay. He knew he needed help, but he couldn't ask for it. So, he asked me to make sure Emma knew her dad loved her. That she knew he was a hero." He zipped up the duffel bag and finally, looked at me. His eyes were red-rimmed, heavy. "Every year, I go see her. I bring her Buzz Light root beer because it's her favorite. We go to the park. I help her with her homework. I tell her stories about her dad. Good stories, funny stories, stories an 8-year-old should hear about her father." I felt like I was going to throw up. "Stan, I'm so sorry. My ex cheated on me, and when I saw that text." "I know about your ex," he interrupted, his voice surprisingly gentle. "You've told me multiple times. But I'm not him, Sarah. I've never given you a reason not to trust me." And he was right. He was so right. In almost a year together, he'd never done anything suspicious. He always came home when he said he would. He introduced me to his family, his friends. He talked about our future together. But I had let my past poison all of it. Can I come with you?" I asked desperately, clinging to a sliver of hope. "To California? I'll call in sick to work." Stan shook his head, a weary sigh escaping him. "This isn't about us. This is about Tyler and Emma. I'm not bringing our drama into her life." He picked up the duffel bag and set it by the door. Then he went to the kitchen and started making dinner, like it was any other night. I watched him chop vegetables, season the chicken, heat up the pan. Normal movements, normal routine, but everything felt utterly different. We ate dinner in silence. I pushed food around my plate, unable to swallow, while he ate steadily, mechanically. When he finished, he washed his plate, dried it, put it away. Then he went to the living room and turned on the TV. I sat next to him on the couch, leaving a chasm of space between us. He was watching some documentary about World War II, but I could tell he wasn't really paying attention. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched in his lap. "How long were you and Tyler friends?" I asked quietly, breaking the heavy silence. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. "Then, boot camp. We went through together, Ended up in the same unit. Did 2 tours together. He saved my life twice. I couldn't save his once. His voice cracked on the last word, shattering the stoic facade. I reached for his hand, but he pulled away. I need to check my flight, he said, getting up. I stayed on the couch, listening to him moving around in the bedroom, drawers opening and closing, the shower running. Normal sounds that felt anything but normal. My phone buzzed. A text from my friend, asking how the confrontation went. I stared at it, then, with a jolt of clarity, deleted the entire conversation. They'd been so sure, so convinced, and I'd wanted to believe them because it was easier than truly trusting. Stan came back out in sweatpants and an old Marine Corps t-shirt. He sat in the armchair instead of returning to the couch beside me. I was going to tell you, he said suddenly, his voice low. About Emma. About Tyler. It's hard to talk about. And this trip, it's something I need to do alone. It's not about keeping secrets from you. It's about keeping a promise to him. I understand, I said, even though I was only just beginning to. Do you? He looked at me directly, his eyes piercing through my facade. Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you were just waiting for me to screw up. Like you had one foot out the door this whole time. That hit hard. Because there was truth in it. A brutal, undeniable truth. I had been waiting, watching, looking for signs. Every time he was 5 minutes late, every time he didn't immediately answer a text, every time he mentioned a female coworker, I wondered. I questioned. I want to trust you, I said, my voice breaking. I do trust you. You just went through my phone and accused me of cheating. His voice was flat, devoid of anger, but full of sorrow. That's not trust, Sarah. We sat there in silence until he eventually went to bed. I stayed on the couch, replaying everything in my head. The way his face had changed when I mentioned Emma's name. The careful, almost reverent way he'd put Tyler's photo back in his wallet. The pain in his voice when he talked about not being able to save his friend. I thought about Tyler's daughter, waiting for Stan's annual visit. Did she look forward to it all year? Did she mark it on her calendar? What kind of stories did Stan tell her about her father? Around midnight, I crept into the bedroom. Stan was asleep on his side of the bed, or pretending to be. I slid in carefully, staying on my side, a vast emotional distance separating us. In the darkness, I could hear his breathing. Steady, but not quite relaxed. I'm sorry, I whispered to his back. He didn't respond. The next morning, his alarm went off at 5 a.m. He got up, got dressed, grabbed his bag. I pretended to be asleep, but watched through barely open eyes as he moved around the room. He paused at the doorway, and for a moment, I thought he might say something. Then he left. I heard his truck start up in the driveway, heard it back out, and drive away. Then the house was quiet, except for the relentless ticking of the clock on the wall. I called in sick to work. I spent the day cleaning obsessively, trying to keep my hands busy while my mind raced. I kept checking my phone, hoping for a text, a call, anything. But Stan didn't reach out. I found myself looking at his things around the house, his coffee mug in the sink, his work boots by the door, the book he'd been reading on the nightstand. Evidence of a life built together that I'd almost destroyed with my crippling suspicion. That evening, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I searched for Tyler Morrison, Marine Corps. I found the memorial page Stan's friend had made. There was Tyler, in his dress blues, smiling at the camera. The comments were full of people sharing memories, thanking him for his service, saying he was gone too soon. I found a news article about veteran suicide rates. The numbers were staggering, 22 a day. I thought about Stan carrying that weight, losing his best friend to an enemy he couldn't fight. My phone rang. My mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then my friend texted again, asking if I was okay. I turned off my phone. The next 3 days were the longest of my life. I went through the motions at work, came home to an empty house, lay awake at night wondering if I'd ruined everything. I thought about calling Stan 100 times, but didn't. This was his time with Emma, his time to honor Tyler. I'd already intruded enough. I used the time to think, really think, about why I'd been so quick to believe the worst. It wasn't just my ex. It was fear. Fear of being vulnerable, of trusting completely, of letting someone have the power to hurt me. But in trying to protect myself, I'd hurt Stan instead. On the 3rd night, I heard his truck in the driveway. I was in bed, but wide awake. Heard him come in, set down his bag, move around the kitchen. The refrigerator opened and closed. Water ran in the sink. His footsteps came down the hall, paused outside the bedroom door, then continued to the spare room. The door closed quietly. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, tears sliding down my temples into my hair. He was home, but he wasn't coming to bed. Wasn't ready to share that space with me. I understood, intellectually, but it still hurt with a raw, piercing ache. The next morning, I found him on the back porch with coffee, staring out at the yard. The fence he'd been fixing stood straight and solid. I poured my own cup and joined him, sitting in the other chair, the distance between us still echoing yesterday's silence. "How is Emma?" I asked, my voice soft. He took a sip of coffee before answering. "Good. Growing fast. She's doing well in school. Loves soccer." "That's good." We sat in silence for a while. The morning was cool. Birds sang in the trees, normal suburban sounds that felt fragile somehow. "I've been thinking," Stan said finally, his gaze still fixed on the horizon. "About us. About trust. About what happened." I held my breath, waiting. "I love you, Sarah, but I can't be in a relationship where I'm always under suspicion. Where one text message can turn into an accusation. That's not fair to either of us." "I know," I said, my voice thick with remorse. "I don't want that either. I want to do better. I want to be better." He turned to look at me, his eyes serious. "Then you need to figure out how, because I can't fix this for you. Your trust issues, your past, that's something you have to work through." He was right. I'd been carrying my past relationships into this one, letting old wounds dictate my actions. It wasn't fair to Stan, and it wasn't healthy for me. "I'll find a therapist," I said, my resolve hardening. "Start working on it. Really working on it." Stan nodded slowly. "That's a start. Are we okay?" I asked, dreading the answer. "I don't know," he said, his voice laced with exhaustion. "Honestly, I need time to think, to figure out if I can move past this." It wasn't the answer I wanted, but it was fair. I'd broken something between us, and it would take time to repair it, if it could be repaired at all. Stan finished his coffee and stood up. "I'm going to shower and head to work." I watched him go inside, then sat alone on the porch. The fence he'd fixed stood strong, a reminder that some things could be repaired with patience and effort. I hoped our relationship was one of them. But as I sat there in the morning light, I knew the real work was just beginning. Not just to save my relationship, but to heal the part of me that expected betrayal, that looked for it, that almost created it out of nothing. Stan deserved better. And maybe, finally, I was ready to be better. The next few days at work were torture. I couldn't concentrate on anything, making stupid mistakes on reports and zoning out during meetings. My supervisor pulled me aside on Wednesday, asking if everything was all right. I mumbled something about personal issues and promised to do better. Stan had gone back to his normal routine, work, gym, home, but nothing felt normal. He slept in the spare room. We moved around each other like polite strangers, careful not to touch, barely speaking beyond necessary logistics. The house felt too quiet, too empty, even with both of us in it. Thursday evening, I came home to find him in the garage, working on his motorcycle. He'd bought it a few months ago, a project bike he was slowly restoring. I stood in the doorway, watching him work, remembering how excited he'd been when he first brought it home. "I made an appointment," I announced, breaking the silence. "With a therapist. Next Tuesday at 4 o'clock. He looked up from the engine, wiping his hands on a rag. "That's good, Sarah." "I also called my mom," I continued, told her we wouldn't make it to her birthday dinner this weekend. Stan frowned. "You didn't have to do that." "I didn't think. I mean, I wasn't sure if you'd want to go together." He set down his wrench and really looked at me for the first time in days. "Your mother's birthday isn't about us. We committed to being there. We'll go together." Together. A fragile word, yet so meaningful. He turned back to the motorcycle, but we're taking separate cars. I might need to leave early. It was something, at least. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a small step toward normal. I went inside and started dinner, making his favorite pasta dish. When he came in later, oil-stained and tired, he actually sat at the table instead of taking his plate to the living room. "Tell me about Tyler," I said as we ate. "If you want to. I'd like to know about him." Stan slowly set down his fork, considering. He was from Texas, small town outside Houston. Joined up straight out of high school, just like me. First time we met was at intake, standing in line to get our heads shaved. He made some joke about how at least he'd save money on haircuts. A small, genuine smile crossed his face at the memory. He was the guy who could make everyone laugh, even when things got bad. Especially when things got bad. During our first deployment, we were stuck at this FB for 3 weeks straight. Couldn't leave the wire. Morale was shot. Tyler organized this whole Olympics thing with MREs and sandbags. Had events like who could build the tallest tower with MRE boxes, sandbag relay races. Stupid stuff. But it kept us sane. He sounds like a good friend, I said. The best. Stan's voice got quieter, a hint of the grief returning. He was there when I got hit by an IED. Minor stuff, just some shrapnel. But I was knocked out for a bit. Woke up to him dragging me to cover, yelling at me about how I wasn't allowed to die because he'd already called dibs on my PlayStation. He pushed pasta around his plate. 6 months later, our convoy got ambushed. Bad one. Tyler took out 2 shooters who had me pinned down. Saved my life and 3 others that day. Got a Bronze Star for it. When did things change? Second deployment was rougher. We lost some guys, good guys. Tyler took it hard, but he kept it together. Kept everyone else together. It wasn't until we got back that I started noticing things. He was drinking more, not sleeping. His wife, Emma's mom, she tried to get him help, but Tyler was stubborn. Said he was fine, just needed time to adjust. Stan got up and went to the window, looking out at the backyard, his back to me. His wife left when Emma was 3. Couldn't handle what he'd become. Tyler spiraled after that. I tried to help. We all did, but he was good at pretending everything was okay. Then one day, I got a call from his mom. He'd left Emma with her for the weekend. Said he needed to take care of something. I knew what came next without him saying it. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words. Stan continued, his voice barely a whisper. The last time I talked to him was 3 days before. He called me, sounded better than he had in months. Talked about Emma starting preschool, how smart she was. At the end, he made me promise to look out for her if anything happened to him. I thought he meant if he got in an accident or something. I should have known. It wasn't your fault, I said softly. I know that most days. But knowing and feeling are different things. He turned back to me. That's why I go every year. Not just for Emma, but for Tyler too. To tell him about his daughter, how she's growing up strong and smart and kind. To let him know I'm keeping my promise. We finished dinner quietly. As Stan cleared the dishes, I saw him differently. Not just as my boyfriend who'd been hurt by my accusations, but as a man carrying his own invisible wounds, honoring a sacred promise to a fallen brother. Friday at work, I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation. During lunch, instead of sitting with my usual group, I ate at my desk and researched veteran support groups in our area. Maybe Stan would be interested, maybe not, but I wanted to have the information ready if he ever was. My phone buzzed with a text from my friend asking if I wanted to grab drinks after work. I declined, saying I had plans. She pushed, asking if everything was okay with Stan. I stared at her message for a long moment before typing back, "We're working through some things. I'll talk to you later." The truth was, I was embarrassed. Ashamed of how quickly I'd believed their assumptions, how eagerly I'd accepted their certainty that Stan was cheating. They'd fed my insecurities, and I'd let them. That evening, I got home before Stan and started preparing for the trip to my mother's birthday. I packed our overnight bags. We always stayed the night since she lived 2 hours away. I put Stan's in the spare room where he'd been sleeping, along with a small, handwritten note. "Thank you for still coming with me." He arrived home later than usual, looking tired. "Traffic was hell," he said, heading straight for the shower. "We should leave by 9 o'clock tomorrow to hit the worst of it." I packed our bags. I called after him. "Thanks." Such normal exchanges. But I treasured each one. Every ordinary interaction was a small victory. A tiny step back toward what we'd had. Saturday morning, we loaded up both cars. Stan followed me for the 2-hour drive to my mother's house. I spent the whole trip glancing in my rearview mirror, irrationally afraid he might turn around and leave. But he stayed right behind me, steady and reliable as always. My mother greeted us at the door with her usual enthusiasm, pulling us both into hugs. If she noticed the tension between us, she didn't comment. My sister was already there with her husband and kids. The house was full of noise and chaos. Stan was good with kids. I'd noticed that before, but paid more attention now, thinking about his visits with Emma. He helped my nephew build a fort with couch cushions. Listened patiently as my niece explained her complicated playground drama. He even helped my brother-in-law fix a leaky faucet my mother had been complaining about for weeks. During dinner, my mother asked about our plans for the holidays. Stan and I exchanged a quick, uncertain glance. "We haven't figured that out yet," I said carefully. "Well, you're always welcome here," she said warmly. "Both of you." After dinner, while everyone was gathered in the living room, I stepped out onto the back deck for some air. Stan found me there a few minutes later. "Your mom made me bring you cake," he said, handing me a plate. Thanks. I took a bite of the too sweet frosting. Thank you for being here. For being so good with everyone. They're good people, he said simply. They don't deserve to suffer because of our problems. Our problems. At least he was still saying our. Stan, I need you to know something, I said, setting down the plate. What I did, going through your phone, accusing you, it wasn't about you. It was about me and my issues and my fear. You've never given me any reason to doubt you. You've been nothing but good to me, and I repaid that by assuming the worst. He leaned against the deck railing, looking out at my mother's garden. I know that logically. But it still hurts to know that after everything, you were so ready to believe I'd betray you. That you went looking for evidence of it. I wasn't looking initially. I just saw the notification but you knew my password, he interrupted. You'd figured it out and kept that knowledge secret. That's what gets me, Sarah. The premeditation of it, like you were preparing for the day you'd need to check up on me. He was right. I had memorized his password weeks ago, telling myself it was just a coincidence that I'd noticed the pattern. But deep down, I'd filed it away like insurance, just in case. I'm going to change it, he said. The password. Already did, actually. Not because I have anything to hide, but because that's a boundary that should exist. I understand. We stood there in the cooling evening air, the sounds of my family's laughter drifting through the open windows. It should have been a perfect moment, us together at a family gathering, comfortable and happy. Instead, we were two people trying to figure out if what we had was salvageable. I want to forgive you, Stan said quietly. I'm trying to. But every time I think about it, I see your face when you said Emma's name. The triumph in your eyes, like you'd caught me, like you'd won some game I didn't even know we were playing. My stomach twisted. It wasn't triumph. It was fear and pain. And I know what I saw, Sarah. His voice was firm, but not unkind. And that's what I can't get past. Not the snooping. Not even the accusation. It's that moment when you thought you'd caught me, and some part of you was satisfied to be right. I wanted to deny it, but couldn't. Because in that horrible moment, there had been a sick kind of validation. See? I knew he was too good to be true. I knew he'd hurt me eventually. I need help, I admitted, the words barely a whisper. Professional help. This isn't just about my ex anymore. It's about something deeper, and I don't know how to fix it on my own. Stan nodded. That's a start. We went back inside, played our parts for the rest of the evening. My mother hugged us both goodbye the next morning, whispering in my ear to take care of myself. I wondered how much she'd picked up on. The drive home was lonely, just me and my thoughts, and Stan's car a silent presence in my rearview mirror. I thought about Emma, somewhere in California, maybe looking at pictures of her dad. Did she have Stan's number? Did she call him sometimes, just to talk? Back home, Stan immediately went to work on his motorcycle. I gave him space, using the time to research therapists who specialized in trust issues and relationship trauma. The appointment I'd made was with a general counselor, but I realized I needed someone with specific expertise. Monday came with an unexpected complication. My work friend, the one who'd been so convinced Stan was cheating, cornered me at the coffee machine. So, she asked eagerly, "What happened? You've been avoiding us." I stirred my coffee slowly, choosing my words. It was a misunderstanding. I was wrong. Wrong how? You said there was a text about some girl. It's complicated, I said. And private. But Stan wasn't cheating. She looked skeptical. Are you sure? Because men can be really good at covering their tracks. Maybe he just had a good excuse ready. He wasn't cheating, I repeated firmly. Okay, but how do you know? Did you check his phone again? Follow him. I stared at her, really seeing her for the first time. The eagerness in her eyes, the way she leaned in like she was hoping for drama. Had she always been like this? Or was I just noticing now? I have to get back to work, I said, walking away, but she followed me. I'm just trying to help. You were so upset last week, and now you're acting like everything's fine. If he's manipulating you, he's not. I snapped, then lowered my voice, suddenly aware of curious ears. Look, I appreciate your concern, but I need you to drop this. Stan is a good man, and I nearly ruined everything by listening to people who don't even know him. Her face flushed. We were just trying to protect you. From what? From a man who's never done anything but treat me well? Who's honest and faithful and kind? I shook my head. I need to get back to work. I spent the rest of the day avoiding her and the others who'd been so quick to assume the worst. It made me think about the echo chamber I'd created, surrounding myself with people who validated my fears instead of challenging them. That evening, I found Stan in the living room, going through a box I'd never seen before. It was full of military stuff, patches, medals, photographs. I was thinking, he said without looking up, maybe you should know more about this part of my life if we're going to make this work. He pulled out a photograph and handed it to me. It was a group shot, 8 men in combat gear, standing in front of a building riddled with bullet holes. Stan pointed to each one, naming them. That's Martinez. He's a cop in Chicago now. Williams is still in, just made sergeant major. Thompson got out and opened a restaurant. Bradley's in law school. And Tyler, I said, recognizing him from the other photo. And Tyler. Stan pulled out another picture. This was Emma's 3rd birthday. Last one we celebrated together before. The photo showed Tyler holding a tiny girl in a princess dress. Both of them were covered in cake and laughing. Emma had her father's eyes, bright and full of joy. She looks happy, I said softly. She was. They both were that day. Stan carefully put the photos back. I've been thinking about what you said, about not knowing this part of me. Maybe that's my fault too. I've kept it separate, locked away. It's easier than explaining. Easier than remembering sometimes. You don't have to share anything you're not comfortable with. I know. But maybe I should. Maybe if you understood more about where I've been, what I've seen, you'd understand why loyalty means what it does to me. Why trust, once broken, is so hard to rebuild. He told me stories for the next hour. Not the hard ones, not yet, but funny ones about basic training. About the stupid things young soldiers do when they're bored. About the bonds formed when you trust someone with your life daily. We had this saying, he said, got your 6 foot means I've got your back. I'm watching out for you. It's more than just words when you're over there. It's a promise. A sacred thing. When someone's got your 6, you don't question it. You don't doubt it. You trust it absolutely because your life depends on it. And I violated that, I said quietly. Yeah, he agreed. You did. Tuesday's therapy appointment couldn't come fast enough. Dr. Patricia Chin was in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense approach that I appreciated immediately. Tell me why you're here, she said after the initial pleasantries. I told her everything, about my ex, about Stan, about the text and the accusation, and the devastating truth. She listened without judgment, occasionally asking clarifying questions. What do you think would have happened if you'd simply asked Stan about the text, she asked when I finished. He might have told me, or he might have said he wasn't ready to talk about it yet. And how would you have felt about that? I considered. Suspicious? Probably like he was hiding something. So you chose to violate his privacy rather than risk feeling suspicious? The way she put it made me sound terrible, but it was accurate. Yes. Let's talk about what you're really afraid of, Dr. Chin said, her gaze steady. It's not just being cheated on, is it? By the end of the session, I felt raw and exposed, but also clearer than I had in years. We'd barely scratched the surface, but already I could see patterns I'd been blind to before. Stan was in the garage when I got home, but he came inside when he heard me. How was it? He asked. Hard, I admitted. But good, I think. She wants to see me weekly for a while. He nodded. That's good. She also said, it might be helpful if you came to a session sometime. Not couples counseling, just to help her understand the full picture, but only if you're comfortable with that. Maybe, he said. Let me think about it. Wednesday brought another challenge. Stan's phone rang during dinner, and I saw Emma's name on the screen before he answered. He stepped outside to take the call, and I fought every instinct to follow, to listen, to know what they were talking about. He was gone for 20 minutes. When he came back, his eyes were red. Everything okay? I asked carefully. She had a bad day at school. Some kid was talking about their dad and Emma got upset. Her grandmother didn't know how to help, so. He shrugged. So she called you. Yeah. He sat back down, but didn't touch his food. I told her about the time Tyler and I had to give a presentation in training, and he accidentally put his slides in backwards. Made the whole thing into a comedy show. Got her laughing. You're good with her, I said, a soft smile forming. I try. It's not. I'm not trying to replace him. I just want her to know she's not alone. She's lucky to have you. Stan looked at me sharply. Don't do that. Do what? Try to make this into something noble or romantic. This is my life, Sarah. My real life. Emma is a real kid who lost her real dad, and I'm just trying to keep a promise. It's not a story or a secret or something for you to have feelings about. It just is. His words stung, but he was right. I was trying to reframe everything, to make myself feel better about my accusations by turning Stan into some kind of hero. But he didn't want to be a hero. He just wanted to be trusted. You're right, I said. I'm sorry. Thursday was my 2nd therapy appointment. Dr. Chin dug deeper into my past relationships. Not just the ex who cheated, but the patterns that went back further. You choose men who seem safe, she observed. Predictable. And then you wait for them to prove they're not. That's not. I don't think that's true. You figured out Stan's password. You said he was predictable. Was that comforting or concerning to you? I thought about it. Both, I guess. Comforting because I felt like I knew him. Concerning because if I could figure him out, maybe that meant he was hiding something. So predictability made you suspicious? I guess it did. We talked about self-sabotage, about the way I'd created the very situation I feared most. By the end of the session, I felt like I'd run an emotional marathon. I want to give you homework, Dr. Chen said. I want you to write down every time you feel suspicious or doubtful about Stan. Don't act on it. Just write it down. Note what triggered it, how it felt, what you wanted to do about it. Bring it next week. That evening, Stan told me he was going out with some work friends. Immediately, my mind started spinning. Was he really? Which friends? Where were they going? I wrote it all down instead of voicing it. Trigger. Stan going out without me. Feeling anxious, suspicious, fear. Want to ask 20 questions, check his phone location, drive by the bar to see if his car is there. Instead, I said, have fun. Drive safe. He looked surprised but pleased. Thanks. I won't be too late. After he left, I sat with my notebook. Adding more. Why did him going out trigger such anxiety? Because my ex used work friends as cover for his affair. But Stan wasn't my ex. Stan had introduced me to his work friends. I'd been to their houses, met their wives. I wrote until my hand cramped, examining every toxic thought. It was exhausting, but illuminating. When Stan came home at exactly when he said he would, smelling like beer and buffalo wings, I felt silly for all my fears. Good night. I asked. Yeah, Mike's getting divorced, so we were cheering him up, or trying to. He paused. I should have invited you. I just thought with everything going on. It's okay, I said, and meant it. You're allowed to have time with your friends without me. Friday, I made a decision. I called my work friend and asked to meet for lunch. I owe you an apology, I said once we'd ordered. I reacted badly on Monday. It's fine, she said, but I could tell she was still hurt. No, it's not. You were trying to help, but I need to tell you what really happened so you understand. I told her about Emma, about Tyler, about the promised and kept. Her face went through a range of emotions, surprise, sadness, understanding. Oh my God, she said when I finished. And we told you he was cheating. We were so sure. You were working with the information you had, I said. But that's the thing. We didn't have information. We had assumptions, and I almost destroyed my relationship because of them. She was quiet for a moment. I think I might have some trust issues too. My dad cheated on my mom when I was in high school. Maybe I see it everywhere because of that. We talked for the rest of lunch, really talked, about relationships and trust and the way past hurts shape present fears. It was the most honest conversation we'd ever had. That weekend, Stan started moving his things back into our bedroom. Not everything, not all at once, but his book appeared on the nightstand again. His phone charger plugged in on his side of the bed. Is this okay? He asked, setting his alarm clock back in its usual spot. More than okay, I said, a wave of relief washing over me. We still weren't touching, weren't back to normal, but we were sharing space again. That first night, lying in bed with 2 feet of space between us, I was hyper-aware of his presence, every shift, every breath. I wanted to reach out, but didn't know if I was allowed. Sarah, he said in the darkness. Yeah, I'm trying. I want you to know that. I'm trying to get past this. I know. Thank you for trying. I do love you. That hasn't changed. You need time, I finished for him. I understand. Monday's mail brought an unexpected challenge. A save-the-date card for Stan's Marine buddy, William's wedding. Stan stared at it for a long moment. It's in California, he said. Same weekend as my trip to see Emma. Oh, I could do both. See Emma, then drive down for the wedding. He looked at me. You're invited, too. If you want to come. My heart jumped. To the wedding? To all of it? Emma's been asking about you, actually. I showed her a picture once, and she wanted to know if you were my girlfriend. What did you tell her? That you were. That you were special to me. He set down the card. I wasn't going to invite you this year because of everything. But maybe it's time. Maybe you should meet her. I wanted to say yes immediately, but forced myself to think. Are you sure? I don't want to intrude on your time with her. I've been thinking about what you said, about not knowing this part of my life. Emma's a big part of it, and if we're going to work through this, maybe you need to see all of it. Then yes, I said, a soft, hopeful smile spreading across my face. I'd love to meet her. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm. Therapy on Tuesdays, where Dr. Chen helped me unpack years of defensive behaviors. Work, where I consciously chose not to engage in gossip or speculation about anyone's relationships. Home, where Stan and I slowly rebuilt our connection. He started sharing more stories about his military service, not all at once, but in small doses, a memory triggered by a news story, a funny anecdote while making dinner. Gradually, I began to understand the depth of the bonds he'd formed, the weight of the losses he carried. One evening, he showed me a video on his phone. Emma at a school play, dressed as a tree, forgetting her lines and making up nonsense instead. The audience's laughter was warm and supportive. She's got her dad's ability to improvise, Stan said, smiling at the screen. She's adorable. She is. He put the phone away. I'm nervous about you meeting her. Why? Because it makes it real. You knowing about her is one thing. Being there, seeing us together, it changes things. Are you worried I'll be jealous? I asked carefully. Are you? I thought about it honestly. No. I'm grateful. Grateful that she has you, that you've honored your promise. A little sad that it came from such tragedy, but not jealous. Good. He was quiet for a moment. I've never brought anyone to meet her before. Never wanted to. But with you, I want you to know all of me, even the complicated parts. 2 weeks before the California trip, we had our first real setback. Stan's ex-girlfriend from years ago reached out on social media. Just a friendly, "Hey, how have you been?" message. But I saw it pop up on his phone while he was in the shower. Every instinct screamed at me to look, to read their conversation history, to investigate. Instead, I wrote in my notebook, trigger, message from ex feeling panic, suspicion, fear. Want to read messages, demand explanation, assume the worst. When Stan came out, I handed him his phone. You have a message. He glanced at it, shrugged, and showed me the screen. Becca. Haven't heard from her in years. Are you going to respond? Probably not. We didn't end badly, but there's nothing to say. He studied my face. You okay? I'm working on it, I said, honestly. He set the phone aside and sat next to me. Thank you for not snooping. It was hard, I admitted. I know. But you didn't. That matters. In therapy that week, Dr. Chen praised my restraint, but pushed deeper. What would have happened if he'd wanted to respond to her, to catch up as friends? I would have hated it, I said immediately. But would you have tried to stop him? I paused. I don't know. I'd want to. Let's talk about the difference between feelings and actions, she said. You're allowed to feel uncomfortable. You're allowed to feel jealous or insecure. What matters is what you do with those feelings. We worked on strategies for managing anxiety without controlling behaviors. It was hard work, retraining thought patterns I'd held for years. The week before California, I went shopping for the trip. What do you bring to meet your boyfriend's deceased best friend's daughter? What do you wear to honor a promise born from tragedy? Stan found me agonizing over options in our bedroom. Just be yourself, he said. Emma's 8. She mostly cares about whether you'll play soccer with her and if you like her drawings. What have you told her about me? That you're important to me. That you make me laugh. That you're kind. He paused. I didn't tell her about our problems. That's adult stuff. Not for her to worry about. Good. I don't want her to think. I trailed off. To think what? That I'm taking you away from her, or... Her dad's memory. Stan sat on the bed. You're not. Nothing could. Emma knows I'll always be there for her, just like I promised her dad. Having you in my life doesn't change that. Promise. He reached out and took my hand. It was the first time he'd initiated touch in weeks. Sarah, I need you to understand something. What happened between us hurt me, but it also made me realize I haven't been fair to you either. I've kept parts of myself locked away. Expected you to just accept the walls I put up. That's not a partnership. You had reasons. I did. I do. But if we're going to make this work, really work, then I need to let you in. All the way in. Emma's part of that. Tyler's memory is part of that. The good and the bad. All of it. I squeezed his hand. I want that. All of it. 3 days before we left, Stan got another call from Emma. This time, he put her on speaker. Uncle Stan, are you really bringing your girlfriend? Her voice was high and excited. I am. Is that okay? Yes. Does she like soccer? Stan looked at me. I nodded. She does. Good. Oh, and Grandma says to tell you we have the guest room ready and she's making that casserole you like. Tell her thank you. Uncle Stan, do you think my dad would like your girlfriend? The question hung in the air. Stan's eyes met mine. Yeah, he said, his voice soft. I think he would. He'd probably make fun of me for taking so long to introduce you. Emma giggled. He was silly. The silliest, Stan agreed. After they hung up, we sat in comfortable silence. The weight of what was coming settled over me. Not just meeting Emma, but stepping into this sacred space Stan had created to honor his friend. I won't let you down, I said quietly. I know, he replied. That's why I'm bringing you. The night before we left, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to Stan's breathing, thinking about the journey we'd taken to get here. From accusation to understanding, from broken trust to tentative rebuilding. We weren't fixed. Not yet. But we were trying. Can't sleep? Stan asked in the darkness. Nervous? A little, I admitted. He rolled over to face me. In the dim light, I could just make out his features. It's going to be okay. Emma's going to love you. Tyler's mom is wonderful, and the wedding will be fun. Marines know how to party. It's not just that. This feels big. Important. It is. He reached out and brushed hair from my face, a gentle touch that sent warmth through me. But that's good. Important things usually are. We left early Friday morning, Stan driving while I navigated. The conversation flowed easier than it had in weeks, touching on everything and nothing. He told me about the time Tyler convinced their entire unit to sing Happy Birthday to Emma over satellite phone. I shared stories from my childhood I'd never told him before. I've been thinking, Stan said as we crossed into California, about forgiveness. About moving forward. My heart rate picked up. Yeah, I forgive you, Sarah. I wanted you to know that before we get there. What happened hurt, but I understand why it happened, and I believe you're working to change. That matters. Tears pricked my eyes. Thank you. That means everything. But, he continued, his voice firm but kind, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean we're back to where we were. We're building something new now, hopefully stronger, but it's going to take time. I understand. I'm in it for the long haul. Good. He reached over and took my hand. So am I. As we drove toward Emma and Tyler's memory, toward Stan's Marine family and all the complicated, beautiful, painful parts of his life he was finally sharing with me, I felt something I hadn't in weeks. Hope. Real, solid hope that we could build something better from the ruins of what I'd almost destroyed. The exit for Tyler's mom's house was coming up. Stan squeezed my hand. Ready? He asked. Ready, I said, and meant it with every fiber of my being. The house was a modest ranch style in a quiet neighborhood, with a well-maintained lawn and flowers blooming in window boxes. Stan parked in the driveway behind an older sedan. I could see him taking deep breaths, preparing himself. Tyler's mom, Victoria, he paused, searching for words. She's been through hell, but you'd never know it. She keeps it together for Emma. We grabbed our bags and the wrapped presents Stan had packed. My hands were shaking slightly as we approached the front door. Before Stan could even knock, it flew open. Uncle Stan. A small whirlwind of dark hair and energy launched herself at him. Stan dropped everything to catch her, lifting her up in a bear hug. Hey there, Em. You've gotten so tall. Emma pulled back to study his face. Seriously? Grandma says I'm having a growth spurt. Are you staying the whole weekend this time? The whole weekend, he confirmed, then sat her down. Emma, this is Sarah. Remember I told you about her? Emma turned those intense eyes on me. Tyler's eyes, I realized, the same ones from the photos. She studied me with the unfiltered curiosity only children possess. You're prettier than in the picture, she announced. Do you really like soccer? I do, I said, finding my voice, though it felt a little wobbly. Though I'm probably not very good anymore. That's okay. Uncle Stan's terrible, but I still let him play. She grabbed my hand without hesitation. Come on. I want to show you my room. Grandma. They're here. Victoria appeared in the doorway, a woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair and tired eyes that brightened when she saw Stan. They embraced warmly, and I saw her whisper something in his ear that made him nod. You must be Sarah, she said, turning to me with a genuine smile. Stan's told us so much about you. Please come in. To Emma, let them at least put their bags down first. The house was filled with photographs. Tyler at various ages, Tyler in uniform, Tyler with Emma as a baby, but also newer ones. Emma at school events, Emma with Stan at what looked like a baseball game, Emma blowing out birthday candles with Stan and Victoria flanking her. Emma dragged us to her room, which was an explosion of purple and soccer posters. She had a bookshelf crammed with books, a desk covered in art supplies, and a wall dedicated to drawings. Many featured stick figures in military uniforms. "This is you," she told Stan, pointing to a figure with brown hair. "And this is Daddy." I made his hair yellow because he was sunny. My throat tightened. Stan knelt beside her, studying the drawing. "Seriously, that's perfect, Em." He was definitely sunny. "And this one." Emma pulled out another drawing. "Is from when you told me about the time Daddy made everyone laugh during the sandstorm. I drew the sand yellow and orange." She had dozens of them. Pictures inspired by Stan's stories. Each one carefully dated and labeled. Stan examined each one like it was precious art, asking questions, praising details. "Sarah, do you want to see my soccer trophies?" Emma asked suddenly. "I'd love to." As she showed me her collection, chattering about each game and goal, I caught Stan watching us with an unreadable expression. When our eyes met, he offered a small, shy smile. Victoria called us for lunch. She'd made sandwiches and cut up fruit. Simple but welcoming. Emma dominated the conversation, telling us about school, her friends, her teacher who is mostly nice, but gives too much homework. "Emma has something to ask you," Victoria said when there was a pause. Emma straightened in her chair. "Uncle Stan, can Sarah come with us to the cemetery? I want to show her Daddy's spot." The question hung in the air. Stan looked at me questioning. I nodded slightly. "If that's what you want, he said carefully. "I do. I think Daddy would want to meet her." After lunch, we piled into Stan's truck. Emma insisted on sitting between us, pointing out landmarks as we drove. The cemetery was peaceful, well-maintained, with mature trees providing shade. Tyler's headstone was simple but dignified. His name, his dates, beloved son, father, and friend inscribed below. Fresh flowers sat in the vase, Victoria's doing, I assumed. Emma approached the headstone like she was greeting an old friend. "Hi, Daddy. Uncle Stan's here, and he brought Sarah. She's his girlfriend. She likes soccer." She chattered away, updating her father on her life, like he was just away on a trip. Stan stood beside her, one hand on her shoulder, adding comments when she paused. I hung back, feeling like an intruder in this sacred ritual. "Sarah," Emma called, waving me over. "Come say hi." I approached hesitantly. Emma grabbed my hand and pulled me down to her level. "You have to introduce yourself," she explained seriously, "so he knows who you are." I looked at Stan, who nodded encouragingly, feeling slightly foolish, but understanding the profound importance of this moment. I faced the headstone. "Hi, Tyler. I'm Sarah. I'm lucky to know Stan, and now Emma. Thank you for..." I paused, unsure how to continue. "Thank you for your service and for raising such an amazing daughter." Emma beamed. "See, Daddy? She's nice. Uncle Stan picked a good one." We stayed for another 20 minutes. Emma showed me the exact spot where she liked to sit when they visited. The tree that had the best shade. The bench where Stan would wait while she had private talks with her dad. On the drive back, Emma fell asleep against my shoulder. Stan reached over and took my free hand, squeezing gently. Back at the house, Victoria had pulled out photo albums. While Emma napped, she showed me pictures of Tyler growing up. Tyler and Stan in boot camp. Tyler holding newborn Emma with the biggest grin I'd ever seen. "He was a good father," Victoria said softly. "Even when he was struggling, he loved that little girl more than life itself. I think that's what made it so hard for him. He felt like he was failing her." "He wasn't," Stan said firmly. "He was sick." "That's not the same as failing." Victoria patted his hand. "I know, dear. You tell me that every year. One day I might even believe it." Emma woke up demanding soccer. We went to the backyard where she proceeded to run circles around both Stan and me, scoring goal after goal between two lawn chairs. "You're terrible at defense," she informed Stan gleefully after scoring her 5th goal. "I'm letting you win," he protested. "You always say that." She turned to me. "He always says that, but he's just slow. Watch this." She demonstrated some impressive footwork, then tried to teach me. I fumbled through it, making her giggle. "It's okay," she said patronizingly. Uncle Stan took forever to learn, too. Dinner was the casserole Victoria had promised. Emma's favorite, apparently. She ate enthusiastically while regaling us with stories from school. I noticed how Stan and Victoria worked in tandem, making sure she ate vegetables, reminding her to drink water, the kind of seamless cooperation that came from years of shared practice. "Can we watch a movie?" Emma asked after dinner. "One movie," Victoria agreed. "Then bed. You have practice in the morning." Emma picked some animated film I'd never heard of. She wedged herself between Stan and me on the couch, providing running commentary throughout. Halfway through, she started yawning, but fought to stay awake. "I'm not tired," she insisted, even as her eyes drooped. "Sure you're not," Stan said, a soft smile on his face. "Come on, bedtime." "Will you do the story?" she asked. "Always." I started to get up, assuming this was a private ritual, but Emma grabbed my hand. "You can listen too," she said. "Uncle Stan tells the best stories about Daddy." In her room, Emma changed into pajamas decorated with soccer balls and climbed into bed. Stan sat on one side, I sat on the other. "Which story tonight?" Stan asked. "The one about the mud," Emma requested. Stan launched into a tale about Tyler getting stuck in mud during training, turning what must have been a miserable experience into a hilarious adventure. Emma giggled at all the right parts, even though she'd clearly heard it many times before. "Daddy was silly," she said sleepily when he finished. "The silliest," Stan agreed, tucking her blanket around her. "Sweet dreams, Em." "Night, Uncle Stan." "Night, Sarah." She was asleep before we reached the door. Back in the living room, Victoria was looking through more photos. She showed me pictures from previous visits, Stan teaching Emma to ride a bike, Stan at her school play, Stan helping her build what looked like the world's most elaborate sandcastle. "You've been so good to them," I told Stan. "They've been good to me, too," he replied. "Gave me purpose when I needed it most." Victoria excused herself to bed around 10 o'clock, hugging us both. "Good night." Stan and I sat on the back porch, the night air cool and quiet. "Thank you for bringing me," I said. "Thank you for coming. For understanding why this matters." "She's amazing, Stan. You've done right by her. Tyler would be proud." "I hope so." He was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes I worry I'm not doing enough. That I should be here more. Be better at this." "You're doing exactly what he asked. You're making sure she knows she's loved, that her dad was a hero." "That's everything." We sat in comfortable silence until the air got too cold, then headed inside. In the guest room, we got ready for bed quietly, aware of the sleeping child down the hall. "I love you," I whispered in the darkness. "I love you, too," Stan whispered back, pulling me close. It was the first time we'd slept wrapped around each other since my accusation. It felt like coming home. Saturday morning came early with Emma bouncing on our bed. "Soccer practice. Get up. Get up." "Emma." Victoria called from the hallway. "Let them sleep." "But Grandma." "They said they'd come watch." "We're up," Stan groaned. "Give us 10 minutes, Em." She bounced out, already in her soccer uniform. Stan looked at me with sleepy eyes. "Welcome to Emma Weekends. Hope you're ready for this." Practice was at a nearby field. Emma ran drills with her team while we sat on the sidelines with other parents and grandparents. She kept looking over to make sure we were watching, waving whenever she did something particularly impressive. "She's got Tyler's athleticism," Stan commented. "He could run for days." After practice, we took Emma for ice cream where she very seriously explained her team's chances in the upcoming tournament. She had statistics and everything. "You sound like a coach," I told her. "Maybe I'll be a coach someday," she said thoughtfully. "Or a professional player. Or maybe both. Uncle Stan says I can be anything I work hard for." "Uncle Stan's right," I said. The afternoon was spent at a local park. Emma challenged us to race after race, which she won every time. She showed us her favorite climbing tree, the perfect spot for picnics, the pond where ducks gathered. "Daddy used to bring me here," she said matter-of-factly, "before he went to heaven." I was little, but I remember. "He pushed me really high on the swings." "Want me to push you now?" Stan offered. "Yes." Watching them together, I saw what I'd missed before. This wasn't just about keeping a promise. Stan genuinely loved this little girl, and she adored him right back. They had their own jokes, their own traditions, their own special bond. That evening, while Emma helped Victoria with dinner, Stan showed me Tyler's old room. It had been converted to a guest room, but touches remained. A few military medals on the dresser, a photo of his unit on the wall. "Victoria can't bring herself to pack it all away," Stan explained. "Says it feels like erasing him." I understand that. Took me 3 years to go through Tyler's footlocker. He left it to me in his will. Bunch of gear, some letters, photos, and this. He pulled out a worn envelope from his wallet. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Tyler's handwriting. Stan, if you're reading this, then I couldn't fight anymore. I'm sorry. I know you'll say it's not my fault, that I should have reached out. And you're probably right. But right now, in this moment, I can't see another way. Please tell Emma I love her. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her the good stories. Make sure she laughs. Make sure she knows she's perfect. I know it's a lot to ask, but you're the only one I trust with this. You've always had my six, brother. Now, please have hers. Tyler. My eyes burned with tears. Stan carefully refolded the letter. I carry it everywhere, he said, his voice raw. To remind me. Some days, it's the only thing that makes sense. Sunday was William's wedding day. We left early, Emma still in pajamas, for the 2-hour drive south. She slept most of the way, waking up as we reached the hotel. Are we going to a party? She asked excitedly. A wedding, Stan explained. One of Daddy's and my friends is getting married. Can I wear my fancy dress? Already packed, Victoria assured her. The ceremony was at a beach resort. Marines in dress blues, bridesmaids in navy, the ocean as a backdrop. Emma sat between us, mesmerized by the pageantry. She looks like a princess, she whispered about the bride. During the reception, Stan was pulled into group after group of Marines. They all knew about Emma, greeting her warmly, telling her stories about her dad that made her giggle. She collected tales like treasures. Your dad once convinced our entire unit that MRE stood for Meals Requiring Enhancement. Bradley told her, laughing. Had us all trying to trade for hot sauce packets. He sang the worst karaoke, Martinez added, but with so much confidence, we all cheered anyway. Emma soaked it all in, these precious glimpses of the father she barely remembered. I watched Stan navigate it all, making sure she wasn't overwhelmed, translating military terms, adding context to stories. During the father-daughter dance, I saw Stan's jaw tighten. Emma noticed, too. It's okay, Uncle Stan, she said quietly. Daddy's dancing in heaven. Yeah, he is. He looked at her, a soft, sad smile. Will you dance with me instead? Always. They joined the other fathers and daughters on the floor. Emma stood on Stan's feet as he moved them around, her face bright with joy. Other couples made room for them, some of the Marines nodding respectfully at Stan. She's got you wrapped around her finger, William said, stopping by our table. Completely, Stan agreed without shame. The drive back was quiet, Emma exhausted from the excitement. Victoria dozed in the back seat with her. I reached over and took Stan's hand. This weekend, I started, then stopped, unsure how to articulate what I was feeling. I know, he said simply. Back at Victoria's house, we carried a sleeping Emma inside. She woke just enough to mumble goodnight and demand Stan tuck her in again. With a story, she added sleepily. This time, it was about Tyler teaching Stan to surf during leave. A disaster that ended with both of them exhausted and sunburned, but laughing. Emma smiled in her sleep. Monday morning came too soon. Emma clung to Stan at breakfast. Do you have to go? We'll be back next month, he promised. And you can call me anytime. Every day if you want. What about Sarah? Can I call her too? Stan looked at me. I nodded quickly. Of course you can. I said. Good. I want to tell you about my tournament. We're going to win. I can't wait to hear about it. The goodbye was hard. Emma hugged Stan fiercely, then surprised me by hugging me just as tight. Take care of Uncle Stan, she whispered. He gets sad sometimes. I will, I promised. Victoria walked us to the truck, pressing a container of cookies into Stan's hands. For the road, she said. Sarah, it was lovely meeting you. You're good for him. He's good for me too. Take care of each other and come back soon. Both of you. As we drove away, I saw Emma and Victoria waving from the window. Stan honked twice, their special signal. You okay? I asked after a few miles. Yeah, it's always hard leaving. But yeah, we drove in comfortable silence for a while. I thought about the weekend, about Emma's easy affection, Victoria's quiet strength, the community of Marines who'd embraced Tyler's daughter as their own. I understand now, I said eventually. Why you couldn't tell me right away. It's not just a story or an obligation. It's family. Yeah, Stan agreed. It is. I'm honored you let me be part of it. You're part of it now. Emma's decided. And what Emma decides goes. She's got you trained well. Completely. We stopped for lunch at a diner off the highway. Stan's phone buzzed with a text. Emma, he said, showing me the screen. It was a photo Victoria had taken of all 4 of us at the beach. Emma making bunny ears behind Stan's head while I laughed. We look like a family, I said softly. We are a family. All of us. It's complicated and messy and born from tragedy, but it's family. The rest of the drive home, we talked about the future. Emma's tournament next month that we promised to attend. William's suggestion that Stan bring Emma to the Marine Corps birthday ball. Victoria's invitation for Thanksgiving. It's a lot, Stan said. Being with me means being part of all this. Emma, Victoria, Tyler's memory. I understand if, stop, I interrupted. I'm not going anywhere. This weekend showed me who you really are, Stan. Not just the man who keeps his promises, but the man who turns tragedy into love. Who helps a little girl hold on to her father's memory while building new ones. I'm so lucky to be part of this. He reached over and took my hand. We're going to be okay, aren't we? Yeah, I said, my voice full of certainty. We are. Back home, our house felt different. Fuller, somehow, like we'd brought some of Emma's energy back with us. Stan unpacked while I sorted through the photos Victoria had insisted we take. We should frame some of these, I said. Emma would like that. She's big on pictures. That evening, as we cooked dinner together, Stan's phone rang. Emma's bedtime call right on schedule. He put her on speaker so I could hear her too. Guess what? She said excitedly. I told my teacher about the wedding, and she said I could write about it for my journal. I'm going to write about dancing with Uncle Stan. That's great, Em. Stan said. Sarah, are you there too? I'm here. I called. Good. Grandma says you left your sunglasses here. She'll mail them, but I wanted to keep them. That's okay, I laughed. You can have them. Really? They're very fancy. They're yours. After Emma said goodnight, we finished making dinner. It was just pasta and salad. Nothing special, but it felt like a celebration anyway. I've been thinking, I said as we ate, about therapy. Dr. Chin was right. I need to understand why I sabotage good things. Why I expect betrayal. We all have our stuff, Stan said. I shut people out. Keep things locked away. That's not healthy either. Maybe we can work on it together. Not couples therapy, but supporting each other while we do our own work. I'd like that. Later, curled up on the couch, I thought about how close I'd come to losing all of this. Not just Stan, but Emma and Victoria and the whole complicated, beautiful family I'd been welcomed into. What are you thinking about? Stan asked, his voice soft. Gratitude, I said. And promises. And how lucky I am that you're the kind of man who keeps both. We're both lucky, he said, pulling me closer. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma, via Victoria's phone. Uncle Stan smiles more with you here. Don't tell him I said that. Secret. I showed Stan, who laughed. She's not wrong, he admitted. Good. That's my job now. Making sure you smile. And my job, he said, his voice serious again, is making sure you never doubt us again. Deal. As we headed to bed, Stan paused by the hallway table where I'd placed one of the photos from the weekend. All four of us at the park, Emma on Stan's shoulders, me laughing at something Victoria had said. We looked happy. We looked like family. Next month, Stan said, Emma has a father-daughter breakfast at school. She wants me to go. You should. She wants you to come too. Says other kids bring step-parents sometimes. The word hung in the air. Step-parent. Is that what I was becoming? I'll be there, I said, my heart swelling. Wouldn't miss it. Stan kissed me goodnight. And for the first time in weeks, everything felt right. Not perfect. We still had work to do. Trust to rebuild, wounds to heal. But right? My phone lit up with one more text from Emma. 31 days until you visit again. I'm counting. Love, Emma. And Uncle Stan says, love too, but he's being shy. I smiled, already counting down the days myself. 31 days until we were all together again. Our complicated, messy, beautiful family, born from loss but held together by love. I had work in the morning, therapy on Tuesday, a life to get back to. But now that life included Emma's soccer games and Victoria's casseroles and a wall of drawings depicting a father's memory through his daughter's eyes. It included Stan's Marine brothers and their shared grief and loyalty. It included promises kept and trust slowly rebuilt. Most of all, it included Stan, not the man I'd suspected of betrayal, but the one who'd shown me what real loyalty looked like. Who taught me that love wasn't just about the two of us, but about the people we chose to carry with us. I fell asleep thinking about Emma's words, take care of Uncle Stan. He gets sad sometimes. I would. We'd take care of each other. All of us. This unlikely family, brought together by tragedy but sustained by choice. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. My anxiety wouldn't disappear overnight. Stan's grief would still surface at unexpected moments. Emma would still miss her father. Victoria would still wonder what if. But we'd face it together. That was the promise now. Not just Stan's promise to Tyler, but all of ours to each other. To show up, to remember, to choose love over fear, trust over suspicion, family over solitude. And maybe that's what redemption looked like. Not a dramatic moment of forgiveness, but 1,000 small choices to do better. To be better for each other, for Emma, for Tyler's memory, and for ourselves. The last thing I remember before sleep was Stan whispering, "Thank you for understanding." I squeezed his hand in response. There was nothing to thank me for. This was exactly where I belonged. I know this was a wild ride, and my emotions were all over the place. What about you? Have you ever had a misunderstanding escalate so dramatically, only to find a deeper, more profound truth underneath? Tell me what you think. I really want to hear your stories.